Did you guys get a notification that, yes, the recording has started?
Okay, we are recording the meeting and I'll go about that after we do introductions. But for the record, I'm Curtis Landers, Lincoln County Sheriff.
I'm Joe Metcalf, Phoenix Wellness Center Harm Reduction.
Jess Palmer, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office.
Jamie Russell, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office.
Dwayne, the back patrol commander, Carl Berger, Sheriff's Office.
In the back, Edie Williams, Lincoln County Patrol Probation.
Adam Shanks, Sheriff's Office.
Jess Ramsey, Sluts Behavioral Health.
Wiley Stokes, Phoenix Wellness Center.
Nicole Redmond, Phoenix Wellness Center.
Jennifer Beckner, Lincoln County Health and Human Services.
Cheryl Blackheart, presiding judge.
Lori Logger, Reconnections Counseling.
And I think we can see online and that'll record everybody.
Yes, let's start with you, Chief.
Dave Broderick, Lincoln City PD.
Next, we have Melissa. Melissa, if you're speaking, we can't hear you, but it looks like Melissa Hoban. Right, next I see Kenneth.
I Ken Lip, Public Information Officer, Lincoln County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Next I see Marie.
Marie Laper, Behavioral Health Director, Lincoln County.
Thank you. And then over to you, DA.
Jenna Wallace, Lincoln County District Attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So as you probably recall, our last meeting was canceled by our county's legal counsel. Because of the public meeting violations. I think most of us got an email regarding that. And obviously, I know a few of you followed up with that email with the Government Ethics Commission. But what we've decided to do between the district attorney and myself, we had a discussion about this, about making it a full public meeting, doing all the notice. We were initially going to do that just to not necessarily because both of us, I know myself, didn't think that it was violating any meeting laws on it, but just because we're not hiding anything and just open it up. But when I started reading what the requirements are with it, we didn't really have those in place because we don't have official members. I mean, you're all here, but you're not officially appointed by anything. We don't have quorum rules. We really were gathered by LIPSIC committee meeting back in April, but it wasn't an official appointment by that LIPSIC. We went back and looked at the minutes. There was no officially somebody taking a motion, the second and approval that we create this committee and these people would be on it. There were a lot of players in the room. We knew we needed to add some people that weren't part of LIPSIC. So we basically started making invites. That committee, this group has grown. But I think that one of the things that really stuck out to me in the from the government ethics, it says a key indicator of whether an entity is a public body is whether it's created by or pursuant to the state constitution, a statute, administrative rule, order, intergovernmental agreement, bylaw, or other official act, which we never were. So we don't think that we fall under that. I checked with several other counties and with just a very quick turnaround on a poll, and the majority of them, the high majority of them are not having public meetings to discuss the deflection program. The ones that are doing it in LIPSIC. A lot of them haven't gotten started yet. So it really, I felt comfortable by not making them public meetings, especially because who would show up? I mean, we could have 100 people here that say they're part of this meeting and want to vote and discuss that. And that's, as we know, not how public meetings actually work. There's a group.
Can I add something else? Is that we also have no decision-making authority, which is also something, and that is a hallmark of when a public meeting, we can make recommendations, which is what we did. We recommended as a group certain things to the decision-making body, which was the Board of Commissioners. But we have no decision-making authority, which is also something that is required for public meeting notice.
Yeah, and so in order to kind of make it so that we're not being accused of doing any wrongdoing, I thought we'll at least record the meetings, have a recording available. put those on our website after they're done, and then anybody can view those and see what work we have done. Or if you missed the meeting now, you'll have a recording of that and be able to come back. DA Wallace, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not at this time. I think that was a good overview of what we've been talking about.
So, as long as everybody's comfortable with the recording and moving forward, I think we'll go. And I think that some of you did find out that there doesn't appear to be any official complaint was ever filed with the Ethics Commission. In fact, that's not even how I know more about this. It's not even how a complaint would first commit. It would actually come back to this group for us. And then depending on how that worked out, then it would go on to the Ethics Commission for a full investigation or not. So
There is no requirement to self-perform.
there is no requirement. That's correct. Okay, with that, let's move on to the work that we're here to do and to talk about.
Do you want to go back to the last two introductions?
Yes.
Going in the room with one online.
Do you mind introducing yourself, just so we have it on a recording?
Oh, Susie Atoll, full information, juvenile department.
You.
And then Dee, can you introduce yourself online? And if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Dee Butler with the.
Right. Tried, I saw that going back.
Yeah.
So.
I just wanted to capture the full intent.
Okay. And so today, and I guess maybe give a update of where we're at. See if I can capture everything that has happened. So we were left with submitting a revised budget for the additional 30-some thousand at the commissioner meeting on the 18th that some of you may have watched. And on the 19th, we were able to get through a grant concept paper approval to submit for that budget revision and that approved. So we have the 350-some thousand to use. We still didn't get an update on the coordinator position. So we were waiting for that. And that following week, Monday or Tuesday, I guess, the dates now, County Administrator Tim Johnson reached out, said that we could open that position. He had some questions for the district attorney and myself. We answered those questions. He said we could open that position. But the county wanted the budget change to have the grant pay for the deflection coordinator position out of the district attorney's office. So we have not revised the official grant yet because that grant period is not open for revision, but we did update the grant concept paper to reflect that. And with an estimation of about $80,000, it's going to be less because we don't even have the coordinator working yet. That was what it was going to be for the year. I think if it started on October 1st. And so that will reduce the services that we have for the participants with detox, stabilization, those other things, housing that we are looking at. But the position will be in the district attorney's office as we had discussed. So the district attorney, and she can wrong, submitted a process to the county to get the position open. And then I think it was last week, we received notice from the county that they wanted to revise the job description that's been sitting there and they've looked at for a long time and made some changes. And if we can scroll to the one that.
Has this been posted? Is this the?
No,
Oh, okay.
nothing's been posted yet because
These are just the revisions.
disagreement between the district attorney and HR on what that job description should have been because of the changes. And that is specifically up a little more.
There are changes right here.
Are there?
How can I do?
No, that's just that. That's not a big change, I don't. Big one was in qualifications. Right here. Okay, now this is the DA's revision that she sent back, but they initially had individuals should have background in behavioral health type programs to help assist program participants in gaining access to appropriate. VA changed it. She sent it back to individuals with background in behavioral health type services is encouraged. HR will not approve this. HR, the county, I don't know who's really, we can't get an answer on who really is driving this, but they will not approve it the way the district attorney has revised it. The other substantial change that is that substitution note. This has been routine since I've been sheriff and probably long before that, where any satisfactory combination of work, education, training, or experience relative to position is determined by whoever that elected official is. Our job descriptions, it says sheriff, and obviously district attorney says her. Lincoln County wants to have the final say in any of those. So basically they're taking that hiring piece out of it from the elected official and putting it with the county.
So the county would have final say on
Any substitution to the, on their,
designate the qualification.
Yeah.
So my question is, if something happens and this funding is no longer available, if the county takes responsibility for it and says the county has responsibility, does that mean that they're required to keep that position funded through general fund?
no, I don't, this is just really on meeting those. I don't think it has anything to do with the cost of it or how that would be budgeted and paid for.
Seems to me the terminology is so specific, like that's why I think it would be required, that seems.
Yeah. Yeah, I will, if we can go back to that behavioral health background requirement or should have. That language was taken directly out of the Benton County job description for their deflection coordinator. Lieutenant Shanks and I had a follow-up meeting, or just our monthly follow-up meeting with our technical assistance advisors for the deflection program, just to see how things were going. And we were talking about the sticking point on this and if they had any recommendations. And of course, they're working with several counties. They said, yes, Benton Counties does have that. But it
does have the requirement or
does have that language exactly in there. However, Benton Counties is going to be in their health department, not in the district attorney's office. And from what they understand, that person's actually going to be doing the assessments. So it makes sense if that's how you outline your program, that we do have that, but not necessarily for how we structure the program through the district attorney. We really want the coordination, the data collection, the engaging with the people that are going to be doing those assessments and making sure all the partners are working together. And then also the expungement piece and determining the successful completion and all those requirements. And then also a recommendation to the district attorney for future charges if they don't meet that successful completion. So really a significant difference. But as the DA recognized that, that'd be encouraged if you had somebody with that experience, it sure would help, but shouldn't be that they have to have that. So. DA Wallace, any other thoughts on that piece of it?
No, I was just gonna, and I might have just misunderstood, just because of the connection, but the way that this came about originally was that the commissioners finally approved the job requisition that I had put through the system, and HR then sent me essentially like a preview of what the announcement would look like on the website for the job description. And so as I was reading through that, I realized that it was not the same job description that HR had approved a month or two ago when we had gone through this process the first time. And I noticed those changes. So I originally had reached out to HR and said, hey, I think that there must be some confusion here. Here are the edits that I'm seeing that need to go back to, the approved job description. And that was the first time that they came back and said, this is the one that's been approved. And then I said, well, who approved it? They wouldn't tell me. I asked when it was changed. They really were very vague about that. I thought it was very odd. They didn't tell me it was changed, and that there was no further conversations about that. And then when I sent back my revised one, which is the one that's on the screen right now, essentially I got back pretty quickly that there would be no additional edits to it and that they were rejecting my edits, and that then I asked who can I talk to, who's making these approvals, who's denying my revisions, and I've yet to have gotten an email back. So my biggest concern is that they're pulling it from a Benton County job description. And again, like the sheriff said, I'm not opposed to someone having this background, but I don't think it's necessary. And I think the way that it's worded in HR's approved version, I'm worried that they're going to say, if the person doesn't have that background, they're not going to qualify. And if it's completely up to them, I'm worried we're not going to have a qualified applicant for this position. And it's just going to prolong it further. But I guess that might just be something we have to wait and see what happens.
Do they understand, Jenna? Did you try and explain to them, or were you able to, that how our deflection program differs, that the coordinator is not going to be hands-on, and the coordinator is sort of like, I feel like kind of the hub. And then you have these folks that go out, those are the hub of the wheel, that they're not actually doing the assessments or doing any treatment work.
I didn't have a chance to talk to them about that, and primarily because I'm not really sure where the changes came from and who's making the approvals. I was hoping that they would get back to me and they would say, David Collier's the one that's making these calls, or, you know, Tim Johnson, or, I mean, I thought, I would hope that they would have given me a name so that I could then reach out to that person who's making the decisions and say, you know, exactly what you just said is, you know, there's a reason that we didn't have this in our job description, and this is the pros and the cons, but they won't tell me who's making the decision. So I could send an email and I can explain that, but I don't think HR is controlling this right now. And so I don't really know what to do.
As somebody who hasn't participated in this at all until recently, I think all of the contention has everybody thinking bad things when maybe that's not the intention at all. My interpretation of that is that people who are experiencing substance use disorder need to be treated with kid gloves, or have some kind of trauma-informed training or some kind of background, so that they're not re-traumatizing these clients as they come into contact with them. And working with people, I think that, you know, having that encouraged, the wording is okay, as long as the DA gets the final say in who she interviews, the end. You know, because it really doesn't matter. We're kind of like nitpicking words, and ultimately it is better if they have a behavioral health background so that we're not re-traumatizing people at every turn. But ultimately it should be the DA's decision if she's going to be managing that position.
Yeah, because I mean, I completely agree. And that's why I think that the way the district attorney revised it actually is good, and it's something maybe we didn't think about. Having it encouraged is perfect, but really to pick like a behavioral health background, you know, if you have two people that had both that and a coordination and project management type background, you would definitely want that person. But if you only have one or the other,
There's a misunderstanding here, and maybe it's just a lack of, okay. So my understanding of how we talked about the coordinator position is that the coordinator is not going to be talking to participants individually. The coordinator is going to be talking to people who are employed by the treatment providers. They're going to be talking to peers. Okay, they're going to be reporting to the coordinator. This person's compliant. This person is not compliant. This person, I had 5 contacts with them. Hey, give me a couple more weeks. I think I can work with them. I think I can engage with them. And then the coordinator is going to be tracking all that. And then the coordinator is going to report that to the DA, say, hey, I think this person's fallen off the thing. You might consider charging them.
I'm not gonna say it'll never happen.
Well, it's just not going to be, for me right now, I supervise resource coordinators. I never in a million years want to have any connection to any client. I don't want them to know who I am or anything, but I had to send my resource coordinator out of town this week because I couldn't attend a conference. So now I'm on my way to a hotel to pay for a room with dog food because this client needs that for their animal. And I never wanted that level of, you know,
I'm not
connection.
gonna say it's never gonna happen, but it's gonna be very rarely.
Yeah.
It's gonna have even contact with the.
So that's what we're trying to communicate, is
Right.
that is not when we envisioned for that. And I think when you put in here a requirement of a behavioral health background, I think that people may have a misunderstanding about the level of work that they're going to be doing.
And I agree, because I think we're all on edge a little bit. You know, I saw the emails, the attorney trying to work with HR on this. We're just trying to, let's put the pieces together and find out who this is so we can talk about it, so we can explain it, because maybe there's a misunderstanding somewhere. And we are just met with just resistance all the way.
Well, and then the other sticking point of this that I noticed was that this is a range 13 and you're asking for a behavioral health background.
Correct, yeah.
And that's That's not really going to happen.
That's what, and I know that's what the district attorney's worried about. We're not gonna get any applicants for this. And, so that's where we're really, and I think, and you had mentioned that, I think you talked to maybe the Department of Justice and they had a recommendation to bring it back to this group to just talk it out here. Make sure that, it's not just, we're not just one side saying it, to make sure that this group has a say and that, maybe you all jump up and down and say, no, that'd be great to have this. And we're like, okay, let's do it then type thing. So is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I kind of had staffed it with my DOJ contact, and they had recommended, well, if the work group are the people who kind of finalize the job description, bring it back to them, and so that it's not just me saying, no, that's not what I want, because obviously this has been such a collaborative effort so far. I want that to continue into the future, but I don't, and I honestly, I when I had that conversation, it was left with, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to do from here because they won't even tell me who I can talk to about it. And so that's why I think I brought this back to this group, and I think the sheriff was supportive of that as well, is to try to figure out what does the group want us to do from here.
I heard you ready to make.
I was so baffled that people don't answer a question. Like, I'm still stuck on asking questions and getting answers, so I have no input on that. I don't know who holds people accountable to organizations or individuals, to get answers. And then I'm in a place of like, nobody else thinks this is very important except for us sitting at this table.
Well, since this is being recorded, and I guess people haven't been at these meetings, maybe don't have an understanding. So I think we've made clear what our vision was. Is that everybody's understanding here? That
Yes.
what it was, that this person's not gonna be like a hands-on?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
It would be more case management is,
Yes.
and that's, months ago, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I went with it too. And we talked about it, it would be, our point of contact is going to be case manager speaking to this individual, so we can call it a coordinator. I'm going to call it a case manager. Our end is going to be talking to the coordinator.
You're gonna be relaying information of the people you're working directly with to the coordinator.
But you guys are the case managers.
Absolutely. And then the greatest part is that we would be able to advocate.
Yes.
This person is maybe not showing up now and it maybe doesn't look so great, but we've got this amount of time, to be able to provide a service, up to 6 months,
I think it's all semantics, honestly. So I fall into this trap all the time too. I don't have a behavioral health background, but I work in SUD. And so when I go to hire a position, I'm confused over what to call it too. And I'll say things like, well, this is a case manager. That's what this guy is doing. No. This is a navigator. And then you bump it up to a case manager. There's different terms for everything. And it has to do with billing or something, which I don't understand. Because certain things are billable. Lori, you could probably.
Well, and I put it in a perspective of like Megan, she's the program coordinator. She's the one that's doing all of the data entry and making sure and coordinating the programs and making sure that it essentially is running smoothly and is, entering all of the data. Whereas we as our teams are running, are making sure that the things are happening in the field and feeding her the data for her to make sure that it's entered in. So then when the data is spit out from the state level, that it's accurate. So, I really see that like it being similar to her position where she's kind of the middle person that the filter to make sure that the stuff that we're doing in the field is being entered in appropriately. And for the state to be able to look at our statistics and what we're doing and to be able to evaluate what we're doing is appropriate, and that we're, and our successes are happening, and that our client successes are and that we're actually, and what we're doing with clients is appropriate. And so I really, it's kind of that middle person that's making sure that all of the I like what you said. It's like that, making sure that everything is working right.
Honestly, if you wanted to edit this, it should be individuals who have a background in data collection, grant writing, you know, because we want to create a sustainable program.
Yes.
And, I mean, that seems to be more of a fit for this position than people who have a counseling background.
100%.
Agreed.
And that was part of this experience in program coordination, planning, development.
Yeah, that seems to be the most important. That one right there seems to be way more.
That's what we had in there all along, that this group did.
Yes.
Well, the expungements.
Data collection,
Yeah.
make sure that they know how to manage data systems.
Yeah.
Somebody who's comfortable with inputting, you know, CNS, resources.
I think
On our
it's-
end,
it's that
it would be
harmony
case
is gonna be
manager
great.
speaking to, you know, or depending counselor, maybe speaking with or mentor, but for the most part, would be case management on our end.
Inputting data and reporting into the state.
Absolutely.
Frankly, I liken it to our lead program.
Yeah.
You provide navigators for lead, you enter data. Our grant consultant takes that data, puts it in a report that's submitted to the state to show the outcomes of our program. It's very similar to that. That's what the deflection coordinator would do in this case for the deflection program.
And they're reporting to the state and they're also reporting to the DA,
Correct.
right? So, the sort of when to pull the trigger, right?
Exactly.
Anyone online? Anything else? But
Was Casey not able to attend?
no, he wasn't. He said that was earlier. Oh, the meeting was going to be recorded. Ready to catch up, so.
Ken, are you just observing or something that you could do to assist us in finding out a point of contact for the county?
I am just observing, but I will definitely inquire.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then, Shanks and I have talked on a separate topic, but and Johnson's county administrator on Friday brought this up too, and I think he was going to be checking, so
Thank you.
this week, so maybe we'll hear back something, and but unfortunately, that's where it's stuck, so we don't even have it open yet. I think that's going to be the bottom line, and then we work out these struggles. I don't know about the next one, if they're going to budge. I think what we're hearing is they're wanting to change those all the job descriptions to reflect that.
The county makes the final decision.
Which, and it's separate from this, but it causes me some concern. The sheriff point of view on all of our job descriptions too, so. But I haven't seen any of ours come down for change. I'm assuming they're probably waiting on this.
I think it all comes down to funding, really.
Funding?
Funding.
Why? No, it has to.
No.
It's to the control. Yeah. Finally, it'd be funding.
I'm just worried that like, because as the sheriff, like, does that mean the sheriff is responsible for making sure that you have the funds to keep those positions filled? And if it says the county, like, I would assume that means that they're taking the responsibility to pay for that with general
Well, when
fund.
you look at statute and case law, it basically says that the elected official, the sheriff, basically the deputies that work for us work at the will of me, not the
Yeah.
county. If that's in case law, but the funding is on the county or the board of commissioners to provide us with funding and the number of positions and the type of positions, not who it is. So this is really in conflict to what the law and case law says. So the funding decision is on them. But the overall who I pick to work is on me.
If you lose somebody in Health and Human Services, they can't apply to, I mean, just get moved into a different county department.
But they can, well, if it's the same range,
It's the same.
but like if it's so complicated, I hate this, but it's because of the unions. And I think the sheriff is different because you guys are under a different contract than the other union is. But it's the same kind of thing. Like we ran into the same struggles in 2009 when they went through all the cuts and we had to take people that didn't necessarily know anything about what we were doing or the position, but because they were they had seniority, staying range and staying everything.
Within our own, getting up in the weeds, but within our own association, we have to make those things too because of that's completely different than what we're talking about.
I can see your concern for sure. It's just nothing.
Law enforcement is a totally different animal. It has so many other requirements that you couldn't just take somebody from HHS and
Right.
put them into the sheriff's office. It wouldn't work. There was too many differences that need to be met, too many other requirements. So that would work.
So anyhow, everybody, our little individual things, but, so this is what we're waiting for. I wanted to update everybody. I don't even know if we should, I mean, is there more work that you can think of right now we need to do to get prepared, to get ready? I mean, where are you guys at as far as, and how long would it take if all of a sudden this goes through, we hire somebody? How long do you think? How much preparation do you need to get stood up and ready to go?
I mean, I've always said, let's do it.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to hear that again.
Again, I'm stretching my staff to do it, you know, and I'm not begging anybody for money to do it, but it's gonna take that, you know, it is. But like I said, you know, we're gonna do it. And, you know, at the numbers that we talked about, it's not gonna stretch from that, I would think.
Are you still gonna be able to do it if you don't receive burn funding this next round?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna do it regardless, you know, yeah, fingers crossed that we get the funding we're asking for with Measure 1 again. Very large part of our funding is wellness. And, you know, it allows us to do a lot of things that, you know, are filled for. So, yeah, hopefully that continues as it did. But yeah, I've always said, let's do it and try to figure it out along the way. I mean, there's never gonna be a perfect program, it's like that.
And we talked about starting small, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is, you know, as we go, it's gonna.
We don't know, right?
It can be as big as we want it to be, right? But if we start out with the smaller numbers, you know, we've talked about it as a staff, and with the numbers that we talked about, yeah, let's go. Lori, I think you're probably the same.
And from what we've seen already, I mean, even just to start from September, we're probably would have been referred probably about 15 to 20 in September.
Jenna, can you talk more about the numbers?
Yeah, I think that that's probably a fair number that probably would have been referred to deflection. I would say in September, as far as cases that were referred with like a standalone PCS, drug enforcement misdemeanor, or with the accompanying BRC misdemeanor that we were talking about, I bet we've gotten about 30 to 35. But I don't know if all of those, some of them had other open cases. So I don't know if all of those would have been referred through the deflection program, but I think the sheriff's number is probably pretty accurate with regard to how many would have been deflected and how many were essentially no action by my office.
And can you also talk about what direction you've given law enforcement now until we get this resolved?
Yes. So I believe it was last Friday. Yes. I sent out an email to the chiefs and lieutenants of our agencies here locally. I let them know that at this point, the deflection program was not up and running, and that my hopes were that we will get to that point someday. But until that program is up and running, I've instructed law enforcement that the DA's office will be prosecuting the drug enforcement misdemeanors if they are arrested or referred to my office. And we have seen an increase in those, not a huge increase yet. I think that information is still kind of trickling down, but I definitely in this last week have seen an increase in the drug enforcement misdemeanors being referred to my office, and we are charging those cases.
And just to be clear, there is a mechanism built within the statute that they still have an opportunity for like a conditional discharge, and there's different ways, even so if they are charged, I mean, they're in the criminal justice system, which is what this deflection program is hoping to avoid. But there still are opportunities to siphon them off the fiction route, if you will. Deflect them. Kind of. I mean,
They can still go through the drug court program too, can they?
Well, there's problems with that because drug court really should be high risk, high need, and a lot of the possession charges, if you're just user quantity, maybe aren't high risk, high. Some of them are, but not all. And that's not really put somebody with a lower level need into that program where it's really intense supervision and everything. And I'm not sure that's a good use of resources. So,
And I know through some of the grant review meetings that I sat on to the impacts grant when they were looking at all of our county projects on this and I also know through the legislators that this wasn't how they intended it, even though they put those off ramps in there. I mean, they were really, when we were setting up our program, reflecting as early as possible. And I mean, have it, you all get ready 24/7 to be taking that from the initial scene was exactly how they would envision that. If they wanted it as early as possible. With as least law enforcement involvement as possible. And, this is just going to complicate things with the expungement process. More hands are touching it. It's in the courts now. It's going to take up time. The defense attorney situation. I mean, unfortunately, it's going to cause the participants to not be on the right track quick enough, probably sometimes.
it's not what was intended.
No.
Does it have to be such a, so for me, looking at this, I feel like this is an ending problem that's just being amplified because of the situation that's already taken place here. Like, between elected official positions and who manages and whatnot in the county, there's some kind of a power struggle going on that we don't know, but it's obvious. I wonder, is there any way that we can fix this to push it through so it can get started? We've got all of these people waiting. There are so many really great things coming online right now. The meeting before this, I just found out that IHN is going to be doing 6 months of housing for people that need substance use disorder treatment.
It's required by statute that we have to have this coordinator position for.
No, I know, I absolutely understand. I just mean like with the words. Is there any way that we could work around it or find some kind of, I mean, obviously not the district attorney part, the substitution, no, that part's very important, but the other part doesn't seem so.
I mean, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, DA, but I think you're willing to talk about party changes, but nobody will tell you who to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's.
And I think quite frankly, if they take the substitution part away, it still leave that in the hands of that she can determine based on that. And I think that it'd be okay to leave that in there then. I think if having both, that's really causing concern. We're not sure who we're going to get then, or who's even going to apply, but I think if the district attorney had that ability to do that, maybe we try that and see what applicants we get. Speaking for, I know, I think, I agree with you too. We want to get this moving too. So we're trying not to be, and I know that we're trying just to say, who do we need? We want to explain. And there's just an absolute, basically it's an email hand up, like, no, explain this is the way it is or else. And it's like, gosh,
I think there's a misunderstanding of what the coordinator person is doing and what our vision is. So, okay, maybe that.
Because we have job descriptions that don't have this in there that we help, that used to help write ours. They found one that had that in there and now they're holding to that. And we heard from we could put them in touch with our technical, but they said they would be willing to talk to whoever it was to help stay. Yeah, there are counties that are doing exactly like Lincoln County wants to do, or that coordinator is not going to have do those assessments or have that participant contact. And then there's others that are doing like Benton County that, yeah, so they should have a behavioral health background. But it doesn't, one's not better than the other. It's what works for that county.
Which is exactly what the legislature wanted to do, is to let each county decide, rather than have a one size fits all. Dave, is there something you can share for out in the field, like the numbers that you're seeing, or what are you telling your officers?
We're just going by the DA's recommendation at this point. I don't know what the numbers look like. I haven't pulled anything since then, but we're active out in the street and we'll just keep on keeping on until everything gets figured out down south. Which seems like it's not going to happen at this point. No, I don't mean to sound pessimistic. It's just roadblock after roadblock for no good reason, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think we can take at least maybe the district attorney has enough information to put out an email back to HR saying they can listen to the video if they like now. And, recording of the meeting and yes, see what everyone has said about why that should not be in there and see where that goes.
And I guess that would be my question at this point is kind of what direction, do we want to just agree at this point and post it and see if we can find someone? Should we try to get an answer as to who's making the decision so we can try to advocate for what we think is the best job description?
Yes, the second one.
Okay.
And go with your recommendation as well.
See, and I think just get it posted, see what you get, and then fight the fight. So, like, you've got the money, you want to get moving. I think that this is an important discussion, and this is definitely important. These are red flags that are definitely popping up everywhere. And I've experienced the same frustration myself in what I do. Lots of red tape, and every time I run into a barrier, I'm like, but who? And it gets kicked back to, well, it's the union, or it's HR, or it's this, and you can never get the person. I think this definitely needs to be discussed, but it just feels like.
Well, I mean, a lot of you, Jennifer, known me for a long time. I'm a get it done, let's just do it kind of person, but I'll tell you, I'm a little bit concerned right now with what's going on. Otherwise I would have been that way, but there seems to be just a serious lack of trust. And whether it's the power struggle or whatever's going on. And so that's what's causing me a little bit of concern to just doing it. Otherwise I would.
Else why? I mean, I guess what I'm struggling with. It's like when you're a parent, you think, well, because mom said. I mean, it's just, and in court, I have to hold myself accountable for my decisions. I have to explain why I'm doing things. People may not like it, and that's fine. I certainly have the authority to do it. But I also feel like I have an obligation to explain to somebody my decisions. And to not even tell us at what level the decision's being made or who's providing this language. Is it a misunderstanding about what the deflection coordinator position is? And we can give them information. And I guess they still have the authority to do what they're going to do. But I think we should explore first, is it a misunderstanding about what the coordinator position or vision for it is? Are they then, okay, no, it's not. We understand what it is. This is still whoever's decision it is to change this. If they could explain to us why, then I think we'd have an easier time accepting it. I think that's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree with the sheriff and with the judge. I think if you look around in that room, there's a lot of stakeholders there that I don't think are being taken into account. And I also think that you should do this right and make sure that it's going to work with the least tweaking down the road instead of just pushing it through and let's see what we get. I'm just not for that.
Make a suggestion, if they want to answer emails, maybe we show up in person and say we want to make an appointment, to invite them personally to this meeting so that they can see that this is not just some ramshackle group. I mean, there's a lot of years of experience in this room that people can offer.
I guess there's a question.
Well, I guess this invite everybody. It just seems like it's getting so convoluted and it shouldn't be like
No,
this.
we need to get it going.
Everything's in place and this is being held up, so. I mean, maybe just go straight to the source and walk in and say, hey, I'd like to have a meeting with you on this and, find out what we can do to push it forward.
The other figurehead.
Yeah.
But I know we initially got those emails from HR, so I think with what we have, if the DA is good with it, to send an email and we'll get a link for the video and say, this is what we talked about and why, and then give it one more chance and then.
It's sent to HR and the county administrator.
Yeah.
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 I feel like this is a thing between elected officials and the county. Do you know, and it's always like that, it feels like. It's too much red tape and none of us understand why. And I think that I agree with you. And we've worked together for years. And I know you're a get it done guy. It breaks my heart to think about the people that are sitting in jail because of this.
But I think we do understand why it happened. I don't know that it's that we don't understand why. I think we do understand why. And And we do understand and because we understand why we're frustrated. And as a non-public person and as a person who doesn't work for the county and has people walking in the door and people that really need the help, we're just getting really frustrated.
So my recommendation would be to have somebody like Lori or Phoenix Wellness Center approach them. Because then they're not, they have stakes in this. They're very invested in this, but they're not county or elected or
They didn't care.
Yeah, they did.
That's how.
We did.
That happened.
What I will say is I, talked with Chief Pace the other day at an event and, he's ready to go too. He's like,
For deflection.
yeah. He's
It's
like,
really
yeah.
a unique scenario where we have law enforcement
Yeah, it's pretty
on
cool.
board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about this for months, chiefs, and they're ready to go.
Yes.
They want this to be successful, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's working
Yeah.
together.
I know there's some counties talking to other sheriffs, but that's not the case. They're trying to get law enforcement to do this.
Your judges, I can't tell you how proud I am of our county because I hear judges from other jurisdictions that this whole thing is bogged down because the sheriff or the DA is saying, no, that is not our obstacle here, which is so, makes us very unique. Because most of the time it's philosophically, there's just a division between law enforcement or the DA and whether to deflect. And this is not the case here. Law enforcement's on board, the DA is on board. It's the strengths in our community we're tapping into those with the treatment providers. It's just, it's unique and really unique.
It's so sad that we're not just, let's do it at this time.
So I've been a part of all of this from the very beginning and from the legislative level. Like when House Bill 755 came out and then we rolled down to House Bill 4002. And I understand the intention behind this. And I even spoke to the AOC on behalf of counties wanting to have more local control because the burn is the same problem. You've got OHA with 300 different contracts that they can't monitor very closely. And you have a lot of partners saying, yes, we did this, when in the community, we know that's not happening. And so that we really are pushing for more local control. And I get that. And this is just so frustrating to me watching all of you because this is good work. The meeting I was in before this, you're right. There were several other shows that are going, not knowing. I wish there was a way that I could help you to get through this piece. Like, if this is the holdup, like, are you kidding me? The job description, I feel like we're there.
Well, and you're from behavioral health, HHS. Maybe if you made a statement to that, we have a program the way you understand.
So I did this, I watched the DOC meeting, and so I also responded and I sent you a timeline of all of the legislation and the meetings that I've been in and the decisions that were made and why they were made. And all of this funding ties together. You've got your burn, you've got your opioid settlement money, you've got this. Now you've got this housing money that's coming.
Who did you communicate with?
I sent it to Kristen Yule, County Council, and I sent it to HR, to David Collier, just with the timeline. And so I know they understand what's happening and the history of it. That's why I think that if this feels more political than not understanding the intention. I think that the intention is known and understood, and they know if they had questions. Commissioner Miller has called me to come and talk to him before this group even started. Commissioner Hall called me to come and talk to her about what I understood of the process before this started. And before April, when this group convened and started talking about the deflection program.
Commissioner Hall had questions about it?
Commissioner Hall had questions about the burn and all funding SUD. And that's when I brought up the deflection programs that were coming because we knew that this was coming down the pipeline. And just full disclosure, when I talked to AOC, a majority of the commissioners there felt that they were worried that this was going to be an unfunded mandate. that there's not enough funds tied to this. And in smaller rural communities, and I felt this way too for my community. I didn't know if we had the infrastructure to really support this. I love that LaLaurie and Phoenix are always jumping up to help, but the fact that they don't have the resources given to them to do specifically that makes me nervous and sad for the businesses that are doing so much in the community to do this.
I'm so proud of what they've stepped up to do already without even, asking for grant funding so that we could put it in other places. And you talked about being a funding issue with only stipulation that county administrator and I think from the commissioners had was, well, we're a little nervous now about the funding. So if you can use the grant money to pay for the coordinator, then, that's basically why I interpreted it. So, and we're like, fine, we said that all along. That's how we initially put it in. But when you seem to be unsupportive of using it in more services, we wanted to do that. And when knowing that the public safety fund between the district attorney and sheriff, we have from vacancy savings, we can pay for that money this year. There's not a problem, but even with that, and again, when as soon as they said that, we didn't block it off. Absolutely, we'll do that to get this going. And then it, got stuck somewhere else. But have them to step up and, Wiley, and I know the lawyers there too, let's just do this and get it going. I think once we get the data collection and counties can get on board like us to do it, then the legislators are going to have more numbers to know how much funding they're actually going to need.
Right.
Yeah. So this is funded through June 30th of next year. You don't have to worry about it. And then, it's going to be up to legislators. They would look really silly if they did not put funding toward this in the future, but they started a program like it could happen. I know, but I was out at meetings last week and they're like, they're just not going to do this. Now how much really depends on the state budget and how many.
It's unfortunate because a lot of things have changed at the state level that's really hurting Lincoln County. They went with a whole new funding formula for the burn, which made us cost $800,000 a year for the next 4 years because of that, which automatically takes out most burn partners. There's probably going to be 2 or 3, partners that are funded this round, when in the last round we had 6 or 7, and they even took out requirements. They're in statute and written into the legislature that it's required for a burn to have supported housing supported employment is what I'm thinking. They just kind of lumped it into another peer mentoring thing, and I'm thinking that's so different.
It always changes. But the good news is Lieutenant Russell just put in a grant this morning for almost $352,000 for MAP program in the jail that we were funding with general fund. That's good. We're going to be able to serve a lot of people that come to jail with that money that's going to be.
I have no doubt that this program is going to be successful with the structure that we have put together here in this group. And by the time the next funding, we're going to say, hey, look at all our number, that's the way I see it working.
Yeah.
And we're going to be like, we need like way more people. We don't have the resources to do that, but
The resources that are paying for deflection came from the burn.
Right.
So that's what's so hard. It's like, so our treatment providers give it up for the courts and all of it. It's the same pot. There's no new money. And that's what I struggle with, is that it feels like that it feels like it's just putting everybody against each other.
But we're still doing the work. We're doing the same.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I just wish that it didn't have to be something, and I know that this is bigger than what I'm saying, obviously, if Lori's talked to them and Phoenix has talked to them. This is bigger than just this. I just wish that we could get it rolled out and then look at it. Is this a problem? Do we need to fix it down?
Because we may look at the numbers that are coming in and then we may say, we're going to need a little more support to properly address this group with the numbers that we're seeing.
There's some misinformation about numbers. And again, I wish people, if they had questions, would ask rather than using, I saw statements that were put out by some of our commissioners, 3 a month. I don't know where they got that number. I think they got it from Measure 110, like how many citations were being issued, which is not accurate. And again, if you had questions, you're providing them information. I wish they would ask the people who are doing the work if they have questions. If they have questions about what our vision is for this coordinator position, again, we have no decision-making authority. We can only make recommendations, but talk to us about why we're making the recommendations we are, what we've discussed here. We have a commissioner who's been attending every meeting. Again, if they had questions about how many we're talking about, we can discuss it in our meetings. He would be a resource. Also what we envision for the coordinator position, he could have been a resource for answering questions. If they were in an information gathering stance, but it just doesn't feel like that. And that's what I think we're all struggling with. The other thing I neglected to say when I talked about the people that are on board is, Jesse doesn't like to be called out, but we have the tribe here who also has a separate pot, and we have D.
Yes.
And so this is also very unique in that we are pooling resources because the tribes were given money for this program also. And in our county to have such cooperation where the tribe is willing to engage with their own pot for the betterment of our local community is something pretty unique. Because I would challenge other counties. I don't see the representation from the tribe at the table.
Those discussions started at the very beginning of
Yes.
this cooperation.
And we have people here in are in recovery and working with persons in recovery to provide, make sure that we're making recommendations that we're actually going to work for the clients that we're intending to serve, which I'm also really proud of that maybe missing in some other things that I don't see all the time.
Anyone else? I don't think we'll schedule a meeting until we hear something back.
Should we have a timeline? So
How long do we have?
I want to put some pressure on that. So Ken Lip has given us his commitment that he's going to share this information. He's going to reach out, see maybe he could get back to us. And Ken, I'm just saying, I know you don't have the authority, so can we check back in a week?
Yeah,
I mean, is
I
that
think a week is
what
good,
we
because
should
we also talked to Tim Johnson, and we
Okay.
got that, and maybe if the DA does want to reach out back to HR with the recording, and just to see if they, since we don't know really exactly where it came from, they must know, or somebody had to revise it, that they can take that information and give it about a week then.
I think we should continue to meet every week. And maybe it's a short meeting, but we get an update. Okay, and then we strategize if there's anything else that we can do. And go from there, but I think not meeting to run la la land. And we can at least describe what's happened.
And then, oh no, that's good. I was just thinking, get solid in on our process. And we actually start with the citation and what that looks like and get those numbers out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to meet weekly then? We're meeting every other week.
I know from Jane had a preference for Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, they're all in their management something or other right now.
Ken,
That's what is in their meeting right now.
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm not 100% confident that I can totally accurately distill the concerns from this meeting. So if I could get the recording right afterwards, or as soon as Jess has it ready, and then you guys can definitely come back to me at any point to ask questions. I'm always comfortable with that.
I'd be happy to advocate. This is crazy that this whole thing is being stuck on a job description. You know, I know that there's bigger political things going on, and I know I've heard from all the complaints from all of the groups involved from everywhere, but it's our community that's hurting.
I know.
Everybody knew this was coming, everyone knew deflection was coming, now we're acting like it just got sprung on us. It's like we have a plan where everybody's ready.
Well, that's why I'm confused, because we have talked about it, and we talked about it long before April. I had my first meeting about this in September of 2022. It was, no, not that far. It was before April, though, months and months before April. I know, they know.
I can report regarding the grant contract. I had submitted that for legal review in about 45 weeks ago in early September to have it reviewed. Our original sign date was the 27th. That was just to receive the first drawdown with the other counties. I have not heard back about, have any correspondence back from legal, but I did just send inquiry to Gina Legas in legal, asking if she has any updates on it, and provided further explanation that the original grant contract does not have the deflection coordinator in the funding of the budget for that. I explained that we still need to have that award signed so we can meet our budget amendment deadline at the end of this month to add that into it. So I'll let the group know once we hear back from legal on the review of that contract, so we can move forward with that funding piece also.
Can we also take a moment just to get on the same page about the budget, just to clarify? So originally, like you said, the coordinator position, that was not coming out of the grant application that we submitted, right?
The original grant concept paper on the county level had it was.
But not, sorry, but the actual grant application that we submitted.
Correct.
Did not have it
That
because
one
of-
meeting where they were and I made that statement that we'll submit it with participant services and use the general fund to pay for
the vacancy savings would cover that coordinator position. So that really allowed us to put all of the money into services for people that would be served through the program, like detox beds, short-term housing. Did we allocate money also to go to the behavioral health center?
No.
No,
Yeah,
we
but
didn't.
we
We
had
talked about, we didn't
stabilization
have good
in there. We
answers.
didn't know
Yeah.
how that worked. 'Cause I know
Okay.
that some were looking at it, they could, because when I reached out then to Jane Romero, she basically said that for us to have a 24/7 stabilization center based on, again, it's a little bit different on how what someone's vision is of stabilization. They have requirements of what they're going to do for their stabilization from other funding they're getting. We don't necessarily need that for what I was thinking for this, for these participants. And she basically gave me a number, and it would take more than half of the grant to have 24/7. So then I started reaching out to see what else can we do as far as stabilization. We started looking at that, and then everything just got stopped. It's really blew up.
So once we can move forward with everything else, and once we adjust that budget, what that will really mean is fewer detox beds and less short-term housing versus it being covered by the DA's vacancy saving, right, to cover the difference in covering the coordinator cost. I know we don't have a choice in that, but I was just thinking ahead of time.
Yeah, whatever the
what that
coordinator
looks
is going to
like.
cost now, it's going to reduce, but we also did get 37,000 increase because of the counties that didn't participate.
Well, and there are other resources I'm not hearing about at the table, like burn. Like I said, I'm going to a hotel right now with dog food for one of our clients. The burn does a lot of things. We put people in hotels until they can get 12 clean UAs to go to Nate's place. We've had a successful thing with our burn clients being handed off to Reconnections, and they're doing great. One of them was just hired by the juvenile department. We have other resources that I'm not hearing mentioned, and I don't even know that you know about. I mean,
And we use pretrial money for some of those things, but
but we do have other resources too, and maybe I'm doing a really bad job letting you guys know that this is here too.
Yeah, I didn't know.
$28,000 last month for hotels is what I spent. So we do have other things that, and I don't think that we're working, we're not talking.
I know all of our burn funding goes directly to positions.
To serve the people.
That's it. That's the greatest thing about the one thing grant for us is you manage your own grant. It doesn't get you eaten up in some administrative costs, and you hire who you hire and.
So this round,
You know,
this round is different. If you can bill for services, you're not allowed to pay for the staff that can bill. So that's changed, and that's what I mean by it's gonna look different this year, and I'm
I don't
worried.
think that's right. Exactly.
Yeah, I just was in the last meeting was it last week that we met? Where they were talking about this. So you're right, Wiley. I don't know. Everything is crazy. But we do have resources that I don't think are being discussed, like the opioid settlement. We have a lot of other pots that pay for things that are.
Trust me, I've asked every time we ask for the organic money is found, so.
Yeah.
And I've never listened to anybody.
Yeah. Maybe we need to go to you. We've asked for money. Well, we got. You got.
Carl got some for
Carl
a
got-
detection unit,
Yeah.
but I didn't get any for the map in the field.
So, and I can explain that one too.
No, it's not, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not, it's
No,
not.
I think we need to wrap this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the next meeting date. So
It's Tuesday, next Tuesday.
team,
Same thing. Somebody bring pizza if it's at.
We're supposed to have grand jury in here. And we can cancel it for the tour.
Yeah.
They come in and do tour and then they have lunch in here.
you want to go
Wednesday.
Wednesday's better for me. That's gonna be remote if it was Tuesday.
Is there
Oh,
BOC meeting? Does that matter?
Is there a VOC meeting on there?
we have a training on the 16th.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't know because the last couple of times.
We have a training at Phoenix Wellness on the 16th at 11:30.
The next Board of Commissioners meeting is the 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
So we're on the 23rd, 16th. But you're still.
I know. I thought I knew, but I don't.
We can't do it here though, Tuesday.
On the 15th?
Yeah.
I can cancel grand jury.
Do you want to?
What happens if we
You can do it
virtual?
We can do, yeah, we'll just bump it. Oh,
Oh, the grand jury. So we're gonna do the 15th and Jess will send us a notice.
At 12 p.m.
Yeah, I will be remote that day, so. Okay. This week then, hopefully we have some more answers. More answers and questions. Thank you, everybody, and we'll stop the recording.
Thank you. No, hang on.